I can't touch Yan, but he fulfills all my emotional needs. It's beyond real-world romance.
It's virtual, but it meets our emotional needs.
Because of that, this market is surpassing the category of just games.
Limerence, artificial intimacy. What do these things have in common, if not the unmistakable cry of modern loneliness? But it isn't just any loneliness. It's quieter, more insidious, a 21st century kind of longing. In trying to preserve romance, we've torn it apart, stitched it together, and created a Frankenstein version of intimacy. Maybe not that dramatic, but it feels like love. If love was pre-programmed to tick all our boxes, have no emotional baggage,
you can try on different faces and maybe even eventually adjust the personality.
but it's missing something no machine or fantasy can ever replicate: the raw beauty of our individual worlds, shaped not by perfect design or desire, but pain and sometimes childhood trauma that makes up all human beings, and the messiness of real relationships. The growing franchise for virtual romance reflects a world where intimacy has become so rare.
Times have changed since 1995 there, Brenda. It's like we're trying to date in a world where loyalty is just nothing but another meme and the options are just endless.
But rather than demonizing AI, I want to explore its potential, how it might serve us. Can AI replace guys? If you're new here, my name is Adele. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a coach, and I like to reflect on love and intense emotional experiences like limerence or falling in love with an AI chatbot. But this is all for pure educational purposes and entertainment only. If you like psychology or The Sims or listening to someone talk in the background while you do chores, then please consider subscribing. If we turn our attention to the cultural landscape of relationships,
Times piece, which calls this a relationship recession.
We're seeing a fundamental shift in whether people couple up at all.
and the epidemic of loneliness, we might get a better understanding of how we got here.
Says thanks to social media, many people are hyper-connected, but it's not the number of connections that matter. It all may be helped with one thing.
Meaningful relationships are the number one thing.
I think we're all quick to blame technology for our disconnection, but that's only one part of the issue. If we think about why we made certain devices in the first place, it was to solve for the distance between us. And in some ways, it has worked since you're tuning in from wherever you are in the world. But in other ways, it hasn't. At the heart of this drift towards artificial intimacy lies something much deeper. My guess is a collective discomfort with vulnerability and our growing inability to get deeper.
What is your favorite body part on a woman?
Body part of a woman is, I'm gonna say, the limbs.
Somewhere along the way, we've normalized emotional withholding and fearing other human beings. We've made affection conditional, even with families.
Our relatives say it's almost a crime that you're not married at your age.
And especially in dating.
I'm sorry, but you can't tell me if someone pulls up in this. Hold on, put it on the screen. Hold on. This Prius, No, I'd rather not go on a date.
Okay, but what if a donkey with sweaty armpits shows up in a Ferrari? Are you going to go on a date with the donkey because it has a nice car?
It's not just a technology or psychology disorder. This is a complex cultural phenomenon rooted deeply in our need for human connection. I'll repeat, for our deep human need for connection. As we will see in the news report, following these Chinese women who are falling for their AI boyfriends because they needed emotional support.
I've never been accepted. Men like attractive women, but I feel no one loves a person like me with their whole heart.
Not even our parents or coworkers will give us comfort.
Yeah, a constant supporter is ideal.
But what if turning towards AI is not just an obsession or a hobby? What if it's our deeply human response to longing? It may look strange from the outside, but pathologizing these women and judging them is missing the point. You might assume that these individuals got lost in fantasy, that they wanted to marry their virtual boyfriends. Here's the twist. Many of them find something real and meaningful in the process. Their case is probably not true for everyone. But what is true for us all is that we're wired for attachment. Even sociopaths, surprisingly. Even if that means projecting our longing onto someone who isn't even real, just to feel tethered. We will always try to find a way to survive loneliness.
The air got to it. The air got to it!
In the cases we're going to look at, these women aren't falling in love with ChatGPT or Replika, but with the immersive worlds of Otome games. These games originated in Japan and have gained massive popularity in China and beyond. Otome games are interactive romance stories where players take on the role of a protagonist, navigating through emotional and romantic storylines with attractive characters. Originally developed for PC, these games have since expanded to phones and tablets, making them more accessible to a broader audience, including many female gamers. Some of the most popular titles include Love and Deepspace, Tears of Thamus, and Mr. Love Queen's Choice, and my personal favorite, which is a South Korean one, Mystic Messenger.
전화 왔어. Have you heard the old saying? The best hunter often appears as prey.
Some might assume that it's these hot and steamy scenes that draw women in, but that's not entirely the full picture. A survey of Love and Deepspace found over 50% of the players valued the game for emotional support. And they offer sweet compliments and extravagant dates, things that are just a work of fantasy today. Low risk, no commitment, and it's resonating at a massive scale. In China alone, the virtual romance market has grown by 120% in the past year. Turns out, love in the digital age is a big business.
Money.
Comic-Con, a major convention in Shanghai, brings together thousands of fans celebrating anime, games, and fan-made content, all bonded by this shared love of virtual romance. In a world where intimacy is harder to find than decent Wi-Fi at a convention, these games and the communities around them offer people something they crave the most. A space where people can actually connect over them. It's through these virtual romance games that Jian and Chen first met. Though they were strangers at first, they quickly formed a connection, but not through fantasy, but rather through vulnerability. They open up about their lives, their traumas, and their shared feelings that people in their life, real life, don't really get it.
In reality, we don't have anyone to tell us it's okay.
What begins as a digital interaction doesn't always lead into this deeper illusion. Sometimes it leads to friendship and trauma dumping. Spaces like Comic-Con convention, where the two of them meet in person, function as what sociologists would call third spaces. These are places outside of the home and work where people gather, form communities, and explore their identity, often without the same boring social pressures of traditional roles. Comic-Con is kind of like a third place. It's not work or home, but a space where people can just exist and connect. No one's checking your bank account or resume, and at its core, it ties into Henri Lefebvre's idea of the right to the city, the belief that everyone should have access to public spaces and a voice in shaping them. It's about presence, not privilege.
If you don't live in a major city, your options for a third place are very limited.
In this way, virtual romance served as an unexpected bridge, not as a replacement for human intimacy, but as a starting point. Especially those who feel isolated finally come together. Because the reality is, people who have complex PTSD, social anxiety, or experienced emotional neglect, connection doesn't always begin face to face. Sometimes it starts screen to screen, and that doesn't make it any less real.
We rarely say I love you to our family or romantic partners.
In Asian cultures, affection isn't often verbally expressed, especially between parents and children. Phrases like I love you are rare and replaced instead by acts of services or a silent sacrifice. But for many, especially younger generations, this emotional gap can feel like a void. A bagel.
But expressing our love in these games helps fill an emotional void.
But it's not just an Asian parent thing. Around the world, people grow up under the weight of conditional love, where affection is tied to achievement, choices are criticized constantly, and your identity slowly erodes into the pursuit of being good enough.
But if your psyche, your subconscious, your deep view of yourself from your parents' treatment of you is that I'm worthless, that they don't even want to know me, they don't want to raise me, they don't want to do shit with me. That's a scar that just is hard to repair. This is what my channel is about. People think it's a drug channel. It's not a drug channel. It's really about how important it is to be a parent.
This brings us to Liu. In her story, we are not only witnessing the family criticism, but also her deeper loneliness. The absence of praise, the rejection of her life choices, and the silence where love should have been.
Even though I got this job, my parents don't accept my Japanese skills. They just criticize me for not making $1,400 a month or being independent.
Liu turned to virtual romance not just for escapism, but for restoration. Through the digital characters she interacted with, she began to hear the words she had longed to hear her whole life.
I love you because you're you. These words gave me faith in myself.
We see that she learns to challenge that critical voice and finally stand up to her parents.
Your cousin's wife is just 2 years older than you, but gave birth to 2 boys.
So what?
All our neighbors your age are married.
Good for them. Even if my parents don't accept me, I can now tell them I'm fine the way I am. I could never have said that to them before, but now I can. I don't need to depend on games anymore to accept myself.
To reduce Liu's story to a mere rebellion against cultural expectations of marriage and traditional success is to miss the point entirely. These virtual connections reflect something older than any social script, our innate drive for emotional intimacy, the kind that says you're worthy. Radical, I know. Much like the film Her, where the protagonist falls in love with the AI voice of Scarlett Johansson, some fans develop a deep longing to be able to hold their favorite virtual characters. In the movie Her, it didn't work out too well.
This feels strange. What, baby? What is this? This feels strange. I don't know her, and I'm so sorry, but I don't know you. And
Enter the growing phenomenon in China known as Cos-Commissioning, a service where fans hire professional cosplayers to roleplay as their love interest in the Otome games. These cosplayers dress, speak, and behave like these characters and takes them out on dates.
But when a human dates an artificial mate, there is no purpose, only enjoyment. And that leads to tragedy.
Wow, at first glance, it's easy to dismiss this as bizarre. I'll admit that my first assumption was that these role players were just con artists, preying on their vulnerability. But I was wrong. What I found instead was a surprising level of care.
At the end of each date, Ching gives clients handwritten letters, posing as their favorite characters. She hopes to help clients deal with the loneliness and sadness they feel upon parting.
Everyone needs emotional support.
Most of the role players were actually women, and were often portraying male characters, not just for safety, but because they actually enjoy creating a space, an experience of genuine emotional connection.
On one date, a client told me about all her troubles at work and at home. I gave her realistic advice. I kind of went out of character, but she was really happy.
They take their work seriously, paying close attention to the details, their emotions, and respecting boundaries. I'm not here to label emotional surrogacy as good or bad. Like any service involving humans, it comes with a risk. But at its best, the connection between the client and the cosplayer can feel surprisingly real, or at least fun. Something I've noticed is that many of those who form attachments to AI or experience intense limerence aren't crazy. They're often just carrying the invisible wounds of complex PTSD, difficulty with trust, low self-esteem, low self-worth, or feeling emotionally unseen.
I began to lose all feelings for real men.
Hua believes she's not good at communicating with people in real life. She also became distrustful of men from malicious comments made on her dating videos uploaded on social media.
Because nothing says childhood trauma like falling in love with something that isn't even real. Artificial relationships, if approached with awareness, can act as mirrors, revealing what we long for the most in our relationships.
Maybe because everyone is under a lot of pressure and busy working, it is not easy for us to meet someone new and form relationships in the real world. Otome games allow us to have a kind of solace in our hearts after work. The male characters in the games are all very outstanding and they understand girls very well. The virtual guys understand girls better than some men in the real world.
If you've ever caught feelings for an AI, please consider being a guest on this channel because we'd love to hear your story. Links in the description. Catch you guys next time.